Hi, welcome to Coda Guitar's starter lesson on easy notation. Now most guitarists actually find it easier to read tablature. So unless you're a jazz or a classical player, most rock and pop players, for example, generally used guitar tablature more than notation. However, tablature doesn't give us all of the information we need because it doesn't actually tell us in particular what the rhythm or the timing of a song is. So having a little bit of an understanding of the basics of notation is really useful, and you can use that in combination with tablature, and it will allow you to potentially learn how to play a song just from reading, whether you've heard it before or not. Okay, now notation is just a tiny little bit harder to read because it's more of a general way of writing music. So for example, if a riff, a guitar riff even, is written down using notation, then a piano player or a trumpet player could play it as well. So in this lesson, what we're mainly focusing on is reading rhythms, so that's going to be useful when combined with reading tablature. But we're also going to have a little look at the different notes and which ones are used on the guitar. So in this chapter I'm just going to quickly explain the absolute basics of notation, which is sometimes called the rudiments. Okay, so what we do is we've got 7 main notes in music, and we use the first 7 notes of the alphabet to represent them. So we've got A, B, C, D, E, F and G. We don't use any other letters, we don't use H, I, J or so on. So just A to G. There's actually 5 other notes that we also use, which we class as sharps or flats, but as a beginner you don't need to worry about them. They would combine to create 12 notes in total, but we're just going to concentrate on the main 7 to start with. Okay, so what we do with notation, we use 5 lines, 5 horizontal lines going from left to right, which are called the stave. And don't get these confused with the guitar strings as with tablature. It's nothing to do with the guitar strings. So they're just 5 lines which are used to represent different notes. And what we do on the left hand side of the stave, we include this symbol, which is a treble clef. Now this is always used for guitar music. Certain instruments use different clefs. For example, a bass guitar would use a bass clef, but for guitar we always use a treble clef, and what this tells us is that each line represents a specific note, a certain note. Now what we do, we use little dots, little oval shaped dots to represent the different notes, and these are either placed on the lines or in between the lines in the spaces. So firstly, on the 5 lines starting from low to high, now remember this is the same as tablature, so the lowest sounding notes are on the bottom, so on the bottom line, and the higher sounding notes gradually go up, so the highest sounding note would be on the top line. So the first note, the bottom note, would be an E, and then the second off bottom line, that note would be a G, and the middle line would be a B, and then the second off top line would be a D, and then the top line would be an F. So all of those notes in combination, E, G, B, D, F. Now there's not really any particular pattern to that you can remember, apart from maybe a little rhyme where you take the first, each of those letters is the first letter of different words. So every good boy deserves football is a common way for people to remember the notes on the lines. Now taking the notes in the spaces in between the lines, we've only got 4 here, so these actually spell out F at the bottom, A the second off bottom space, C the second off top space, and E the top space. These actually spell out face, F-A-C-E, so that's a little bit easier for you to remember. Now, putting these in combination, putting the notes on the lines and in the spaces in combination, starting from low and going to high, it sounds like you're sort of stepping up a ladder or stepping up the stairs. So we'd start off with E, and then we'd go up to the note in the space, which would be F, and then we'd go up to the note on the next line, which would be G, and then the next space up is an A. So when we get to G, we don't use H or I or anything, so we've got to go back to the start and go back to A again. And then from A, we go to B, which is the middle line, and then we go to the space above that, which is a C, and then the line above that is a D, and then the top space is an E, and the top line, is an F. So if you just listen, it sounds like it's gradually stepping up from low to high. So the only other thing to think about is what we call a time signature, because we always play, with rhythm. We've always got to think about the timing of any song that you play. So the most common one that's used in music is 4/4, which just means 4 beats in a bar. So most songs are in 4/4, use 4 beats in a bar. So what this means is, once you've played through 4 beats, that's the end of one bar, and then to carry on we go into another bar and we play another 4 beats, and then we've ended that second bar and we carry on into another bar, and so on. So for example, that little sequence of notes, using all of the notes on the lines and in the open strings, if we play each of those notes, and each of those notes lasts for a beat, we've got E, F, G, A. There's 4 notes, so each of those notes has combined to create one bar, and at the end of this bar we need to put in a vertical bar line, so a line going up which sort of separates the bars. Okay, so after that bar line we carry on and we play a B, and we play a C, and we play a D and an E, and there's 4 more notes, so that's the end of the second bar, and then we've just got one F on its own in the third bar. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, there's one bar finished, and we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, there's a second bar, and then we've just got one note on its own at the end.